Texas races through the relays, baseball drops their series, and we cap off March Madness. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Hello and welcome to College Press Box. I'm Emily Stone, and let's kick off the show. Texas Relays are the second biggest track and field event in the United States, with over 50,000 spectators and 5,000 athletes in attendance at Mike A. Myers Stadium. The weekend of March 30th through April 2nd was definitely one to remember. TSTV's own Eric Goodman was at the races and caught all the action. Let's take a look.
For the 90th year, the eyes of the track and field world were on Texas this weekend as the university hosted one of the most iconic events in the sport.
Georgia.
The Clive Littlefield Texas Relays are the second largest annual track and field meet in the United States. Every year, the best athletes from the high school, college, and professional level, including former Olympians, compete right here at Mike A. Myers Stadium.
Longhorn senior sprinter Charles Anumnu capped off his final Texas Relays in Burnt Orange with a win in his 200-meter heat.
I know you have Big 12 and conference and nationals and stuff, but it doesn't matter to me. Texas Relays is the most important meet of my year.
In addition to Anumnu, Elena Bruckner in the women's discus and John Rice in the men's steeplechase scored victories for the home school.
You know, I'm so blessed to come here and get the win in front of the home crowd, and you know, just like in front of my teammates and everyone, is really special.
The spirit of Texas Relays was best shown in the mile run, where high school senior and UT signee Sam Worley edged out current Longhorn Alex Rogers and former Longhorn and Olympic medalist Leo Manzano with a near sub-4-minute run.
Yeah, I knew the competition would be big here today, so I just had to focus on myself, not worry about what anyone else is doing, and just focus on myself and work on my race. You know, I just thinking, lay it all out there. Don't have any regrets, just go see what you're made of, and it worked out for me, so I'm very grateful.
For Manzano's 16 years since his first Texas Relays, the emotions were raw.
You guys have been there each and every step of the way, and with that, you are my family.
The massive crowd went silent when Rio gold medalist Courtney Okolo pulled out of her 100-meter race with an injury, but fellow Rio medalist and former Longhorn Ashley Spencer explained why the Olympians go full speed when they come home to Austin.
I want to make sure that everybody sees me as Ashley Spencer, who represents Texas, because I might be wearing uniform, but I'm a Longhorn for life.
From the Texas Relays at Mike A. Myers Stadium, I'm Eric Goodman, College Press Box.
Joining me now is Madison Hildreth. Madison, how are you?
I'm great, Emily. How are you?
I am good, and it was a good weekend at the Texas Relays. It was a weekend of records, and as hard as it is to admit, Texas A&M claimed many of those record-setting spots. On Friday, A&M's women's sprint medley beat Arkansas record that was set in 2015. On Saturday, the morning kicked off with another record in both men's decathlon and women's heptathlon, and once again, it was Lyndon Victor from A&M who not only broke the stadium record, but also the collegiate record for the men's decathlon. Madison, why do you think A&M has such dominance in track and field?
They really do have a lot of successful athletes, and they push their athletes, and that's why I think they did really win a lot this weekend. However, there were also some outstanding performances from Texas athletes as well. Zeta Swoops, sister of the one and only Tyrone Swoops, won the girls' discus with a throw of 158 and 10. For the men's 3,000-meter steeplechase, John Rice took home first with a time of 9 minutes and 4.3 seconds. Rochelle Burton stole the show, battling UTEP's Toby Amundsen. Burton finished second, but did set her own personal time of 12.8 seconds. And when it comes to setting records, Elena Bruckner set a school discus record, throwing 54 and 64 meters. So as you can see, it really was a great weekend for the Longhorns as well.
It was. It seemed really exciting. There was a ton of people in attendance. You could pretty much hear the screams anywhere you were on campus. Well, Madison, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Always happy to have you.
Thank you.
Coming up, we have Tyler King and Jonathan Plosick joining us to talk baseball and Texas sports. Stick with us. Welcome back to College Press Box. I'm Emily Stone alongside Jonathan Polasic. Jonathan, how are you?
I'm doing great. I had a great weekend. How are you, Emily?
I'm good. You know, it's a little bit late, but it's been a good day. It's a good Monday. But not as good as, tennis was at Oklahoma. Men's tennis traveled to Oklahoma this weekend to take on both the Oklahoma Sooners and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. The number 6 Longhorns held off the Oklahoma Sooners on Friday, following strong performances from sophomores Rodrigo Banzer and Leonardo Tellis. On Sunday, the Longhorns fell to Oklahoma State by a 4-2 count. Texas hosts number 4 Baylor on Wednesday at the Caswell Tennis Center in Austin.
Moving on to the women's side of things, the 21st ranked Longhorns went on the road to meet a pair of Big 12 teams in West Virginia and Iowa State. The Longhorns shut out West Virginia by a score of 4-0. 37th ranked Bianca Turati won her singles match by a score of 6-2 and 7-5. Against Iowa State, the Longhorns again enjoyed a 4-0 sweep. The Horns took the doubles point quickly with Petra Gronick and Bianca Turati winning their doubles match 6-0 and Daniela Roldan and Danny Waglin winning their match 6-2. The Longhorns made quick work of the Cyclones in singles play to clinch the team's win. Texas resumes dual match play on April 12th when it visits Baylor.
The Texas men's golf team finished the Aggie Invitational in a tie for 5th place after the 3rd round was canceled due to weather on Sunday. Junior Scotty Scheffler finished in a tie for 8th, his 3rd top 10 finish this season. Freshman Spencer Sussman and junior Doug Jim finished in a tie for 16th. Sophomore Steven Schervoni finished in a tie for 31st, and freshman Nick Costello finished in a tie for 67th. The Longhorns will finish up their regular season at the Western Intercollegiate at Pastiempo Golf Course on April 8th and 9th.
The women's golf team participated in the Clemson Invitational this past weekend, finishing in 4th place out of a total of 17 teams, with 5 of those teams ranked in the top 24. The Longhorns were led by junior Sophia Schubert, who tied for 2nd place individually and finished 7 under par, 2 strokes behind the leader. The Longhorns will end their regular season at the Lady Buckeye at Ohio State University Golf Club on April 15th and 16th.
The number 6 rowing team won 2 of 3 NCAA championship level races at the 44th annual San Diego Crew Classic on Mission Bay. University of Texas's varsity 8 boat took a lead with a time of 6 minutes 16.729 seconds. The double varsity 8 plus claimed the win at 6:35.151, and the novice 8 took top prize at 6:58.05. Texas's varsity 4 took 2nd place behind USCU with a time of 7:16.913. The Longhorns will continue competition on April 8th at the Big 12 Double Duel in Oklahoma City.
Let's move on to softball. The softball team took on UTSA this past Wednesday and run-ruled the Roadrunners, winning 9-1 in 5 innings of work. The offense was led by Devin Tunning, Jade Gortares, Reagan Hathaway, and Taylor Ellsworth, who all went yard. The Longhorns then took on U of H in a doubleheader on Sunday, winning by scores of 3-1 in the first game and 2-1 in the second game. Erica Wright led the way in the first game, taking a no-hitter into the 7th inning before Houston got its first hit of the game with 1 out in the 7th. In the second game of the doubleheader, Texas used some late-game heroics to pull off the win, punctuated by Caitlin Slack's 2-out RBI single in the 8th inning to seal the doubleheader sweep. Texas will next take on Texas State in San Marcos on Wednesday.
In their first Big 12 Road Series of the year, the Longhorns fell to the University of Kansas in the first game of the series, 5-3 on Friday night. The Longhorns took a victory, but Saturday's game went to Kansas following a 2-1 victory for the Jayhawks over the Horns. And on Sunday, the series ended with the Longhorns dropping the finale with a 5-4 loss. Texas will continue play against Sam Houston State at Dish Field on Tuesday night. Joining us to talk UT baseball is our very own Tyler King. Tyler, how are you?
I'm good, Emily. Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have you here. Let's start talking baseball. Tyler, why do you going into this season, the Longhorns really worked in preseason. Why do you think they lost this series?
Well, the biggest thing was, if you look at Saturday's loss, Morgan Cooper he didn't have his stuff. He was only able to go 5 innings. He had 110 pitches. And I understand the coaches, recently they've been trying to stretch the starting pitchers to 100 pitches plus in their starts so they can get their arms conditioned for the postseason, especially in Big 12 tournament play, so they can get a lot of length out of them then. But Morgan Cooper is only able to go 5 innings. They got a clutch performance out of Chase Shugart, who was able to finish the game, going the last 3 innings, keeping it the score at 2-1. They got gypped by the umpire on Saturday. Tyler Ranch should have scored, but he was called out at the end of the game. Now, when it comes to Sunday's game, I'd have to say it's on Pierce for me. He left Blair Henley in too long. Blair Henley went into the 8th inning. I think he could have come out in the 6th or 7th. I mean, you have Kyle Johnson in the bullpen, you have Bo Ridgway in the bullpen. Neither of them had thrown all weekend, and Ridgway came in to get the last out of the 8th inning and get out of it after Blair Henley had given up the lead. I think they could have gone to the bullpen a little bit earlier to try to keep the game tied, to give them a chance to win the game. But those two things, and also the offense Saturday was not very good at all.
Now, Tyler, despite the series loss, what are some positive things that these Longhorns can take away from the series?
One of the big things was Ryan Reynolds finally started to get things clicking at the plate. He is the lone switch hitter on the team in the lineup, and he had home runs from both sides of the plate. He had a home run from the right side of the plate on Friday, and then a home run from the left side of the plate on Sunday. The other thing is Chase Sugar, who's struggled at times this year, looked really good Friday, going 3 scoreless innings like I mentioned earlier. If you can get him to step it up and be the guy at the back end of the bullpen and be able to keep Texas in the games, that's going to be big because Texas has struggled to find that piece in the bullpen to keep them in games late.
Tyler, and this weekend we have yet another Red River rivalry. What should we look forward to this weekend against OU?
Here's the thing. OU is not the same OU team they've been the last couple years. They're now a nationally ranked top 10 team in some polls. The biggest thing is going to be limit OU's offense. Their offense is clicking right now. At one point, a couple weeks ago, they had all 9 starters hitting above 290. You don't find that in many college lineups, especially in the Big 12. There's a lot of pitching going on. So to have OU have a big-time offense, the Texas pitching staff's going to have to be on their A game. It'll be interesting to see how the weekend rotation plays out because they have announced that tomorrow and Tuesday Kyle Johnston will start instead of Nick Kennedy. So could possibly see him slot into the weekend rotation as a lefty or possibly at the bullpen. But if they can get some starts from Nolan Kingham and Morgan Cooper like they did 2 weeks ago against Kansas State, I think Texas has a really good shot of getting a series victory at home and getting back on the right track.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan and Tyler, always a pleasure having y'all on. When we return, Katarina Biancardi, Luke Hendry, and Steve Helwick will take us off the 40 acres with Unhooked. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to College Press Box's Unhooked. I'm Katarina Biancardi alongside Luke Henry, and we brought in our college basketball expert, Steve Helwick. And guys, tonight is all dedicated to the final weekend of the Big Dance. So starting on the women's side, Luke, take us back to Friday night in Dallas.
Kat, I can tell you this, women's basketball made some headlines. The UConn's women's basketball dynasty fell to Mississippi State in the NCAA Final Four semifinal. It was not just any NCAA tournament win of a number 2 seed over a number 1. In fact, the one of sports' greatest streaks in all of sports came to an end. Steve, I want to turn to you now. How was UConn's 111-game win streak shattered?
Oh, you mentioned it, 111 games. It's just so impressive in sports. The longest streak in college basketball history, which started back in fall 2014, was finally snapped after an overtime struggle against Mississippi State. The UConn Huskies, throughout the game, they could never pull ahead. They started out back double digits, and then they came back, but they never pulled ahead offensively, and they never got in that rhythm. But after a deadlock through the first 40 minutes, they finally, in overtime, the teams traded punches, but Mississippi State had the ball last, and Morgan William, 5'5", got an impressive shot off from the top of the key, and she just drained it. She stunned the entire nation, entire basketball world, and got all the cowbells ringing in Starkville. It was just quite a moment to see. One of the greatest in women's tournament history, for sure.
The smallest girl ended up having the biggest shot. So now turning to the other side of the tournament in the bracket, South Carolina took down the Stanford Cardinal in the semifinals and turning in the national championship into an SEC showdown. Steve, I turn back to you. What happened?
The Bulldogs just couldn't continue that magic from Friday night into Sunday into the championship game. South Carolina was another 1 seed. It's be difficult to take down 2 powers in a row. Don Staley's team in South Carolina, they dominated. They had a 67-55 victory, cruised through the whole way. Just a great performance through South Carolina, who won that SEC matchup. And for the first time since 2012, the trophy will go home to a city other than Storrs, Connecticut. So that's always interesting.
It is something certainly out of the ordinary.
Steve, you said it. South Carolina celebrated last night, and 2 elite programs battle for the men's title tonight. The anticipation is all a part of what we call the NCAA tournament. 2.5 weeks in March that has been referred to as March Madness since 1982. The big dance begins with 64 teams, 64 different journeys, and 64 different records that become a clean slate come March.
But guys, only one team cuts down the nets. This year's men's Final Four featured a Cinderella team dressed in garnet and black, and another team that had an almost unblemished record from the boys in Spokane, and then the Oregon Ducks, who punched their ticket with a stunner over Kansas. And finally, a college team who sports baby blue and is no stranger to the biggest stage. Let's take a look at how the semifinals match up.
First matchup, Gonzaga and South Carolina. Two newbies to the Final Four, Mark Few and the Zags, taking on Frank Martin and Kansas State. Early, 8 minutes left in the second. Dozier claims the ball, little left-handed floater. That goes 16-0 run for South Carolina to tie this one at 65.
Gonzaga's Zach Collins drains for the three, and Gonzaga takes the lead, 6 minutes left. You're going to watch the big man Krinsky take it down to the rim. All day, baby, from this big man.
70-67, Zags return to the big man, Karnowski. That just about does it for the Zags. 77-73, Gonzaga on top. They advance to the national title game. Gonzaga is a #1 seed, Steve, and the program began the NCAA tournament with only one loss. Yet many critics did not see Coach Few and Gonzaga playing for a national title this season. How did the team out of the West Coast Conference and never appearing in a Final Four before advance to the national championship?
This was their best opportunity to get there because of upsets. I mean, they didn't face a seed higher than a 4 seed throughout the entire tournament. That was West Virginia, who they narrowly beat. They actually trailed the Mountaineers in the last minute. But in the Elite Eight, they had an 11 seed Xavier, and then they had a 7 seed South Carolina in the Final Four. So they got off a little easy with those games there. They crushed Xavier, nail-biter against South Carolina. Smart foul at the end of there to win that game. But their defense has been stellar the entire time. They've allowed under 60 points multiple times throughout, and Nigel Williams-Goss and Jordan Matthews offensively have just supplied so much offensive firepower to help the Zags get to their first Final Four and first title game in tournament history.
And so now we're going to talk about the Zags later tonight, but now we're going to shift to our second semifinal game. Oregon Ducks returned to the Final Four for the first time in 78 years to take on Roy Williams' Carolina squad. So let's roll back to Phoenix to see what happened down there. So the Carolina and Oregon matchup here, you're going to see Kennedy Meeks. He's going to get off the missed free throw. Kennedy Meeks comes in to finish, seal the deal. Carolina goes up comfortably, 66-56.
Ahead to just at 6 minutes left in the game. Pinson finds his teammate, Joel Berry, who knocks down the tray, 71-62 Carolina.
Check out Dorsey with the members bounce, and this pushes the Ducks within 3, and this is no Carolina runaway.
Late basket for Oregon pulls them within 1. Kennedy Meeks misses his first at the line. Team was 19-23 going into these free throws. Misses his second, a favorable offensive rebound for Carolina. Joel Berry fouled on the play.
And Joel Berry will have his opportunity at the free throw line where he misses the first one. And there is no way Carolina is going to miss 4 free throws in a row. But sure enough, they do. They disappoint, but they get the possession of the ball. The men in white end up taking the lead and win the game 77-76. And tonight, guys, Carolina carries the narrative of redemption. The boys are definitely really excited about playing tonight. They are going in for their second straight national title back there from when they were last year. And this is their opportunity for their 6th national championship total. So, guys, if we're taking it back to where they were, how did they get there? Steve?
Oh, UNC's just done a great job all tournament. It started with that 12-0 run late in Arkansas. If you remember, they were trailing the Razorbacks almost all of that game, and that run really pushed them, and they've looked really poised ever since. They throttled Butler in the Sweet 16, and then in the Elite Eight, they took down Kentucky on that Luke May, that almost buzzer beater, that last-second shot, and that just boosted them. It was a quality win over John Calipari's Wildcat squad. I think that really prepared them for a Final Four game with a tough Oregon team, who we just saw those offensive rebounds, and that's how they got past Oregon. But they've had Justin Jackson, who's been scoring well the whole tournament, and so is Joel Berry. But also you add Kennedy Meeks, who's been playing really well in the post to that equation. And then you add Luke May, who's had the buzzer beater, a lot of clutch shots. He played really well in those Sweet 16 Elite 8 games. UNC's just got an entire package there going, and they have that championship pedigree. I really like what they've done so far in this tournament.
Steve, I like what you had to say about North Carolina, but two different packages coming into the national championship game. In fact, ESPN's Jeff Goodman called tonight the game we all wanted to see. It features two #1 seeds with completely different backgrounds. UNC, as Kat mentioned, is seeking its 6th national title, while Gonzaga attempts to etch their name in NCAA title history for the very first time.
Guys, these teams have two contrary journeys to the biggest stage. Which team comes out on top? Steve?
I really like UNC coming out on top of this one. I mentioned how stacked they are with players, with Jackson and Barry scoring and May and Kennedy Meeks coming into their own. But they're also the top rebounding team in the nation. They score better than Gonzaga. I also like Roy Williams. He's won it in 05 and 09. He has that championship pedigree. Gonzaga's a newbie to the Final Four. And I really like the narrative that they almost won it last year and just coming back for redemption. And I think that UNC doesn't lose by 3 this year. They get the job done, and they cut the nets down in Phoenix.
Absolutely. Losing in heartbreaking fashion can make a team want to come back. Luke?
I have to agree with Steve. I think UNC, as he mentioned, has the talented players to get it done. And when you look at Roy Williams, as he mentioned, he is one of the best coaches that coaches the NCAA tournament. He knows how to get the players ready. They want redemption from last year. Carolina gets it done tonight.
And as far as March Madness fans across the board, according to ESPN's Tournament Challenge, UNC was favored to be the 54% to win it all, while the Zags were only 8% picked. So what's going on for tonight's game, Luke?
Kat, the live update is UNC up 52-50 over the Zags. A close one, going to be a nail-biter in Phoenix tonight. Great, great game in store and a great last ending to this incredible March Madness.
I have to say so myself. There is nothing like the big dance. I absolutely love it. Fellas, thank you so much for being on tonight. We had a blast. Folks, keep it here real, keep it right here. When Emily comes back, she's going to recap Texas Pro Day. Thanks for sticking with us.
Welcome back to College Press Box, and thanks for sticking with us. Let's take a look at what's to come this week in Longhorn sports. Tuesday, April 4th, baseball versus Sam Houston State at 6:30 p.m. on the Longhorn Network. Wednesday, April 5th, softball at Texas State at 6 p.m. on Spectrum. And Friday, April 7th through Sunday, April 9th, softball versus Oklahoma on Longhorn Network and baseball versus Oklahoma on Longhorn Network. On Saturday, April 8th, men's golf at Western Intercollegiate. We have rowing at the Big 12 Double Duel and volleyball at the FAST Tournament. And Sunday, April 9th, we have men's golf at the Western Intercollegiate. With the NFL Draft right around the corner, TSTV's Mark Skoll went out to Texas Pro Day to catch a glimpse of what the Longhorns have to offer.
Former Texas running back Deontay Foreman was held out of the NFL Combine due to a foot injury, and it was a hard pill to swallow.
It was really tough. And I say that just because I really want to compete with those guys. You know, a lot of great backs there. And I really want to compete, see why I measured it with those guys.
But Foreman says he earned his money at Texas Pro Day after running a 4.45 40, which made him the fastest running back weighing at least 232 pounds since 2003.
I feel like I shocked the people. That was my whole goal. Actually, I mean, this is something that I knew I could do, so I just had to be confident and calm when I went to go do it, and I feel like I ran well.
Much like he did at Texas, Foreman received a lot of criticism for his weight and his ability to perform on the field. And Foreman keeps a chip on his shoulder through it all.
I don't really let it get to me, but you just see people doubt you. But I've always been doubted. You know, I've always said that. I've always been doubted. So, and I've always had to prove people wrong. So today was just another day for me to go out there and prove some people wrong.
Foreman put up the numbers that NFL teams are looking for, but he says his best qualities come off the field.
You know, I'm a person that's going to be in the playbook. Somebody that you don't got to worry about getting in trouble. You know, I don't really do much. I'm really a homebody. I'm always inside. And then other than that, like I'm gonna work hard every day.
As for which round Foreman will fall, he says it doesn't matter.
It's up to those guys. I feel like I'm one of the best, though. I'll say that. I'm not gonna say where I should go, but I definitely feel like I'm one of the best.
Mark Skoll Jr., College Press Box.
And that is all we have for you tonight. Be sure to follow us on social media at TSTV Sports. Join us every Monday night for College Press Box. And for the best sports debate on the 40 Acres, be sure to catch our sister show, College Crossfire, every Wednesday night. Also, this week, make sure to catch all of our 24/7 action at watchtstv.com. From all of us here in the studio and to everyone in Master Control, thank you for joining us and have a great night.